All right. So, nice lady gave her grandson $2 and said, "Would you please go to the corner store, pick up some hot dog buns for the picnic?" He said, "Yeah, I think it might be $3 at the store." She went into her wallet. She said, "You know, I remember when you could walk into a store with $1 and come out with enough food to throw a picnic for the whole family." And he said, "Yeah, Grandma, that's called inflation." She said, "No, it's those damn security cameras." Well, good morning. How are we today?
Good.
Good.
And you?
I'm doing well, thank you. In case we haven't met before, my name is John Snodgrass. I am a religion teacher at Canisius College, and I've got 4 kids, and they're all with me today. So there will be, and one of them is right here up front. And I welcome you to the Unitarian Church of Niagara Falls. Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. Bring your brokenness and your power, your fatigue, your early morning aches and your energy, your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting. They're printed inside of your leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use, heal, and not to harm,
to help and not to hinder,
to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now please stand if you're able for hymn 361 and to rejoice and come in. Is number 611 in the back of the hymnal. Number 611. And I'll read the sections in standard type, and please join me for the sections that are in italics. This is a section of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is an ancient text from India, from Hinduism. And it's a story, this comes from a story where this young prince is leading an army into battle during a civil war. And he looks across the battlefield and he realizes that he has as many friends and relatives on the other side of the battlefield as there are on his side. And he drops his weapon and he says, I'm not going to fight. But then his chariot driver, who it turns out is one of the Hindu gods in disguise, says, who are you to make this decision of who should live and who should die? And explains to this young prince how the prince and the people and the gods, that they are all one, that they are all part of this same thing. And that what the prince must do is he must kind of follow his destiny. And instead of doing this in fear and sorrow, he needs to do this in acceptance of the oneness of the universe. So it's a strange story in the history of religion, because we might think that the God would tell him, like, yeah, don't do it. Don't charge into this battle. And instead, the God tells him that there's this other thing. So we're going to read this, and it's really fascinating because this is part of the glimpse that the prince gets of this oneness of everything. I am the self that dwells in the heart of every mortal creature. I am the beginning, the lifespan, and the end of all. I am the radiant sun among the light givers. I am the mind. I am the consciousness in the living. I am death that snatches all. I also am the source of all that shall be born. I am time without end. I am the sustainer. My face is everywhere. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of creation. I am the knowledge of things spiritual. I am glory, prosperity, beautiful speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and forgiveness. I am the divine seed of all lives. In this world, nothing animate or inanimate exists without me. I am the strength of the strong. I am the purity of the good. I am the knowledge of the knower. There is no limit to my divine manifestations. Whatever in this world is powerful, beautiful, or glorious, you may know to have come forth from a fraction of my power and glory.
As is our custom, we take a few moments out of our service to participate in a process of sharing with one another here today any particular personal highs or lows that you may have. As you've heard me say before, for some unknown reason or reasons, any joys or highs that we can share seem to be somewhat enhanced by sharing them with others. And perhaps even more powerful is that any real troubles that we have, or sorrows, or some strange reason unknown to me, but they seem to be a little lessened by sharing them. And that's one of the reasons why we have a time like this and during our service. So I'm going to let you have a moment of silence, as I like to do, where you can meditate or consider what you might choose to share with us. And then listen carefully to anything that somebody else wants to share. So let's take that moment of silence just now. And so now, if any of you have decided on something you'd like to share, please come forward and do it. You can also take a candle and light it in its honor, place it in the baptismal font filled with sand for that purpose. And I invite you again and encourage you to listen to what people have to say. So come forth if you wish. You can do it in any order you would like. It's no wonder we are such a small denomination. We don't have all those rules as to whether you light the candle before or afterwards.
Well, I have a little story. I had shared a sorrow some months back about my mother has a dog that she needed to rehome because she's going into a nursing home. And we were struggling and trying very hard to get the dog rehomed. She's older, she's 13. And my mother likes to not admit that she's got any pit bull in her, but she's part Dalmatian and cattle dog is what I'm told, but she definitely got a little pit bull in there. So I tried a site called Adopt a Pet here in Buffalo. I mean, they're in Albany, so it would have been kind of difficult for me to coordinate it. A woman did respond, and she texted me she had 4 kids, which is okay, but the dog, I have to admit, has some urinary incontinence, and I in all good faith, couldn't tell her that the dog was housebroken, because she does have her accidents. But at any rate, the day came for my mother's living with her sister right now until March when the nursing home opens up. This is going to be longer than I meant it to be. At any rate, the dog had to pass some sort of physical for some shelter that they were trying to get her into. So we went to the, she had heart murmur and they just decided she wasn't adoptable or rehomable. So they went to the vets and we're going to put her down. And they took her in there and lo and behold, the vet technician fell in love with the dog and decided to adopt her and took her home. Aww. So that was a happy story. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
I usually only have good things to talk about, but we had a tragedy in our neighborhood this week, and a young man lost his life, and this candle's for him and his parents.
Is there anyone else who has decided they'd like to make a contribution to our joys and sorrows this morning?
Thank you. I have a joy to share, actually. I know we've had a lot of, the world's been kind of in a lot of turmoil, but I've found a group of like-minded thinkers, and I feel really welcome. And it's kind of nice to hear other people talk like I do for once, instead of me talking all the time. So it's kind of nice. Thanks.
Anyone else? I will light a final candle to celebrate unspoken joys or sorrows. And I believe that it's now time to collect for our financial contributions this morning for the welfare of this church, while Patty plays the offertory.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow and the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Well, it's nice to see you all again. My last scheduled service here was during this big snowstorm last month. And we were buried in snow, and everything got shut down. And with the kids out of school for a week, Elizabeth and I saw the opportunity for some much-needed homeschooling. So day after day, we gathered the kids for installments of the Hobbit movies. We consider it an essential part of our parental responsibility, not only to equip our children for the challenges of this world, but also to acquaint them with the culture and customs of Middle-earth. You know what they say? If you don't teach your kids about the Ring of Power, someone else will. Probably Led Zeppelin. Or I guess it'll be Amazon, which used to deliver books, but has now gained the power to generate prehistory for the Tolkienian universe. Who controls the present, controls the past, as Orwell said. The Hobbit, the novel, was originally written so that bookish people, armchair homebodies with little athletic inclination and big hairy feet, could envision themselves whisked away on an unexpected journey with a kindly wizard and a rugby team. Good preparation for pudgy boys dreading a camping trip and girls getting ready for Smith College. Elizabeth and I had both had relationships with that book. Of course, it's harder to envision yourself and your friends in the story once you've seen the movies. My teenagers had seen these films before, since we watched them like every 5 years or so. But they came into it with only the haziest of recollections. Something fascinating we found, the Middle-earth literacy that they came in with mostly came from internet memes, like Boromir saying, "One does not simply fill in the blank," is a popular one with many variations, like, "One does not simply pass Gandalf," or "One does not simply touch MC Hammer." Plus pop culture references like, "and my ex," plus the inside jokes that Elizabeth and I make while cooking. So for them, it was a delightful game of, oh, that's where that stupid thing comes from. Yes, but the reason people keep joking about this comical moment is that it is a minor flash of humor in an emotionally wrenching journey. Anyway, now we've once again carried our children up the rocky slopes of both movie trilogies. Connor did sleep through a chunk of the last movie, sort of like passing out for the last part of a car trip. We're back in the Shire already? Yes, you fell asleep. Now help us unpack. What happened? Frodo and Sam broke up. But Legolas and Gimli finally got married. Sorry, I forgot to say spoiler alert for those of you who haven't been through it yet. One thing that the kids found to be entirely underwhelming was the dragon. Now here is where the strength of movie making fails. Because watching a CGI dragon awaken in a treasure vault or rain fire on Lake Town, no matter how great the special effects, cannot compare with sitting in bed by lamplight, reading, and envisioning yourself facing this beast. There's only so much we can worry about Bilbo Baggins in the second film when we've already seen Martin Freeman's face in the advertisements for the third movie. Plus, we don't fear dragons like we used to. Our dragon anxiety is at an all-time low. Giant beasts are nowhere near as frightening as microscopic virus particles and Supreme Court justices, whose lifetime appointments make them unusually susceptible to dragon sickness. Tolkien did not invent that dragon. He inherited it from Beowulf, an Anglo-Saxon legend that he had translated into modern English. An ancient dragon had been slumbering on a big pile of treasure, and when a thief stole a single cup, the monster, being an uptight Anglo-Saxon sort of dragon, takes to the air and starts burning villages with its breath. So King Beowulf comes out of retirement as an adventurer to fight this monster, and it mortally wounds him before he kills it with a dagger. I'm sorry, spoiler alert for those of us who haven't finished Beowulf yet. Okay. Now, the Beowulf dragon seems to have been borrowed from an old Norse legend of a greedy dwarf who killed his father and then hid himself away in a treasure cave until nesting on this pile of wealth gradually turned him into a poisonous lizard. The theft of a single piece of treasure will then awaken him, inciting a rampage, and he will be killed by a hero with an enchanted sword. These stories have a fascinating common denominator. The dragon as a symbol of greed and laziness. And the idea that one can become a dragon by sleeping in heaps of stolen gold makes an interesting contrast with a bird who must gather twigs and build a nest in order to bring new life into the world. Dragons have become symbols of various types of danger and harm. Old maps of the world used to use the caption, "Here be dragons," to mean uncharted territories. Ironically, "Here be dragons" turned out to be the Americas. The British Islands were long thought to be a giant dragon who had gone to sleep half submerged in the ocean. Somewhat like the Iroquois concept of North America being an island on the shell of a sea turtle. The ancestors of King Arthur were the clan of Pendragon, meaning the dragon's head, people who could somehow commune with the living islands themselves. It's an interesting concept that the island could be someone's pet. The mad monarch in Shakespeare's King Lear warns that his daughter's disobedience will awaken the dragon's wrath. He still refers to himself, the King of England, as this dragon. The word dragon comes from the Greek language, possibly from Draco, a historical Athenian legislator who replaced the old informal oral laws with a written code. It was a tough code, ordering the death sentence for everything from cabbage theft to homicide. When he was asked why his laws were so harsh, he answered that small crimes deserved death, and for the bigger crimes, he couldn't come up with anything worse. So actually, from his perspective, the cabbage thieves were getting their just desserts, and the killers were getting off easy because death was the worst thing that could happen to them. It is from Draco that we get the English word draconian, meaning excessively cruel punishments. And then, later on, the kind of monster whose cup gets stolen so he burns down a whole village was named after Draco, the lawmaker. Some of the most famous snakes in religion come from Greek mythology, like Heracles fights the many-headed Hydra, who sprouts 2 new heads for each one that's cut off. Apollo kills the mighty Python. Perseus decapitates the snake-haired Gorgon Medusa, whose looks can turn a person to stone. You could almost say behind every great man, there is a decapitated snake. The Greeks loved presenting themselves as civilized saviors, rescuing the world from dangerous serpents. But we've got to be careful of taking Greek myth too literally, since we know from archaeology that classical Greece was built on the bones and ruins of peaceful utopias run by priestesses. A lot of this Greek mythology comes from barbarians rampaging through convents and then telling everyone that the nuns inside were actually scaly monsters, or a single serpentine monster with many heads. Heracles bullies the local midwives. It just doesn't have the same ring as Heracles fights the Hydra. This is how we get the myths of the Furies and the Gorgons. Medusa was a priestess cursed for her beauty, the snake hair symbolic of mental imbalance, what we today would call PTSD. And then she gets decapitated and weaponized by the same kind of guy who turned her into a monster in the first place. The association of the serpent with the shamaness is clear from Greek history. The enlightened god Apollo slew the great python, we're told, but the fumes of this buried monster's decay continued rising, giving visions to a priestess called Pythia. For almost 2,000 years, this priestess, the oracle in the cave at Delphi, uttered predictions of the future while inhaling something, probably natural gas, rising in the cavern. And actually, she was doing this long before the god Apollo was said to have come along. And no matter how intellectually and philosophically self-congratulatory the ancient Greeks became, and these were the people who invented pretentiousness, Greek writers, from Plato to Herodotus, attested that the words of this psychedelic shamaness always proved to be true. The all-knowing Python priestess is one of the few surviving textual examples of the positive association of the divinely inspired woman with a serpent companion. But from prehistoric symbolism, we can see that this partnership was central in ancient mythology. From prehistoric symbols and vestigial traces in mythology, we can reconstruct elements of belief from before classical Greek myth and history. In one story, creation begins with a goddess, Eurynome, the wide wandering, who dances in the swamp of dark chaos, and her graceful movements massage the elements into sea, land, and sky. Then, taking hold of the north wind, she forms a companion, the serpent Ophion. And assuming the form of a dove, she lays a great egg, and the snake coils around this to fertilize it until it bursts open. Out of it tumble the sun, the moon, the stars, the plants and animals, the components of the habitable world. In Mayan mythology, the bird and serpent are combined in a single figure. The primordial chaos cannot be separated into sea, land, and sky without the feathered serpent, a special being who can travel all realms, possessing the scales of a sea snake and the feathers of a quetzal bird, including the bright red chest plumage symbolic of fire. As in other mythologies, the serpent aspect symbolizes immortality, and the green feathers symbolize abundant forest growth. In addition, this singular figure encompasses a spectrum of gender, being simultaneously the masculine snake and the feminine bird. This feathered serpent swam in the primeval muck, where she encountered the storm god Huracan, and together they agreed that water, land, and sky must be separated so that humans could be formed and farming could begin. These are a couple out of a wide range of fascinating stories in which the snake, that ancient enemy of mankind, is actually a companion and protector, a necessary collaborator in creation. The snake has always been a fascinating symbol. For our prehistoric ancestors, the serpent emerging shiny and new from its wrinkled old skin must have looked like a magical act of rebirth and immortality. Then, of course, there was the whole issue of poison or strangulation or being swallowed whole by some giant anaconda. As a kid, I was taught a song to sing while being eaten by a boa constrictor, like, "Oh, gee, it's up to my knee," and "Oh, heck, it's up to my neck." It's a Shel Silverstein poem. But I don't think that really captures the horror of it. Part of humanity's spiritual journey in all parts of the world has been coming to terms with terror, including the terror of the serpent, somehow integrating this into religion, not just labeling it as evil or an eternal enemy. When we label the other or the unexplained as evil, we limit our own ability to learn from differences. Rather than empowerment, it is a hindrance. I think we still have something to learn from these ancient symbols of cooperation with these scaly reptiles. Except if you happen to run into a snake that says, "Don't tread on me," in which case, step freely. Our closing hymn is song number 131, "Love Will Guide Us."
Love will guide us, peace has trod us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road
Do we have any announcements today? Um, is, is, is there a potluck today? Okay, does somebody want to announce that? Good, thank you. All right, good. So potluck today, and then at about 12:15, I'll be teaching an adult education session about the biblical story of Cain and Abel, and looking at how that relates to some stuff that was going on historically in the ancient Near East 5,000 years ago. Together we have sanctified this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some out there. They need it. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing, and you are not alone. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, nor the commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together.
Oh, and so it's happy Chinese New Year, and this is the year of the dragon.
Oh.
And so then I was thinking about a postlude because I've been bugging John about great thundering snakes for some time. I couldn't find the right music, so we're just gonna have to go with whatever I came up with as usual. Trust in me, just in me. Shut your eyes and trust in me. You can sleep safe and sound, knowing I am around. Slip into silent slumber. Say